To end this episode, we have the last of the 11 games I recorded when I used my week's free Switch Online trial, Gargoyle's Quest. Of course, now we're well over a year from that free trial. I thought it might make for an interesting thing to keep bringing up, but now I'm at the end of it, I'm not sure there was any point in bringing it up. But anyway, this is the first of a spin-off sub-series from Ghosts and Goblins, and recording this game is why I would later record that game and get its video done first. I didn't want to start the series off on a spin-off. As an outsider to this franchise for so many years, it felt like a very random idea to make 2 games and then give one of the generic enemies its whole trilogy of games. A memorable one to be sure, but I never would have thought of Red Aramis as being on the Dragon Quest line level. But yeah, this game stars a Red Aramis named Firebrand. Centuries ago, the Ghoul Realm was under attack by invaders from another dimension. They overwhelmed the armies of the Ghoul Realm, but were defeated at the last moment by something called the Red Blaze coming in and burning the army away. But hundreds of years later, the Ghoul Realm is once again under attack from that same dimension. On starting a new game, Firebrand is informed that the king has been killed by the invaders before the one telling him dies. But it's okay, because there's another guy in the queue to continue his exposition. But he just tells Firebrand that they are strong before he dies. What a waste of the last few breaths. A third one tells him to hurry through the dimension portal so he can return to the Ghoul Realm before it closes. I guess he's already fighting in the other dimension. That's when I enter my first action screen. Firebrand can spit fireballs in a straight line and can hover for a very short period. He can also cling onto walls with his feet. First enemies are zombies wearing bed sheets and skeletal fish that jump out of water. As I make my way through the burning town, I have to use my wall cling to climb this high wall to get over it. At the top is a fireball with eyes on this tree and a vial I can hover over to pick up. These act as currency. I have to say, I do like how they mixed in the main melody of the Ghosts and Goblins theme into this level theme, having it be familiar but still being its own unique song. I remember Maximo doing that too from the little I played of it nearly a decade and a half ago. I next have to use my wall cling to get to these 2 walls while avoiding flying myself into spikes. I avoid them, but instead jump into the ones on the ceiling at the top trying to grab another vial. A bit more climbing and I can hover to this heart to recover the damage from those spikes. I climb over the trees, taking out bats and navigating small platforms and spiked floors until I reach this collapsing bridge. I grab the vial under the bridge and keep moving. There's also another up the next tree. Moving forward through a tunnel with a spiked ceiling, I have to descend. But I die nudging a spike trying to get another vial. There are mid-level checkpoints though, so it's okay, but I have no extra lives left. I get the vial next time and the heart at the bottom and then enter the boss arena filled with 1 block wide walls over water. The first boss is Zundo Drua, a big fish with hands and exposed ribs. He rises from the water, spits those fireball enemies and then descends. Next time he comes up he charges forward, and he can pass through walls. He has no weak point, just hitting him with a fireball is enough to damage him. While he charges, he also spawns fireballs from behind himself. I just have to use the walls and my cling ability to hover around him when he gets close. He can pick some annoying spots to rise from, but he's still the easy first boss and I kill him without taking any damage. A door opens and Firebrand passes through, having safely returned to the Ghoul Realm. When outside of action screens, the game takes on this top-down form, like a 2D Zelda or RPG. The path on the Otherworld is pretty straightforward. I go west. As I approach this robed figure on the map, I can get into random encounters. I have this pair of tall fishmen spitting fireballs at me, and I die flying right into one. I get a game over, but I just spawn back where I started with the Claim My User Resurrection spell on myself. My next random encounter has the bedsheet zombies with little shields. I just wait for them to turn around and shoot them in the back. Winning the fight gets me 1 vial. I get the fishmen again, just stay in one spot, jump over the fireballs and spit fire back. Then a few hits will kill them. The robed figure when talked to refuses to let me leave his territory and triggers a fight with 5 zombies. 3 can be seen right away, the other 2 are in the back. There's another one to the south that triggers an identical fight. These ones grant me 2 vials on victory. 1 step and I get more fishmen and lose another life. Heading north is another zombie fight. After that I can see a town to the west, so I run around the trees to get to it. The towns in this game have no name. The first demon I talk to tells me of the soul stream somewhere out there that can be used to heal the wounded. The next one tells me about the Talisman of the Cyclone, which is the name of the extra life item. Others are just happy to see Firebrand made it back to the realm alive. This game doesn't have saving, but there is a building in town where I can be given a password to start where I left off if I come back to the game later. One demon tells me to find Jark, who will be able to give me advice. The house behind that guy has a demon selling me extra lives for 8 vials. Further south I find out that Jack is the Baron of town and that in the initial attack he lost the gremlin stick that was given to him by the recently killed King Dark Owen. I enter the southern house and talk to Jark, who looks a lot like Astaroth from the main series games. He says that without his gremlin stick he can't help me. I say I'll go get it back and he gives me the fingernail of a spectre, which allows me to jump higher. I can check my stats to see that jump is now level 2, life started at level 2, while wing, which is my hover length, is still level 1. Leaving town I head north a bit to find a demon crying for help. He says the ones who attacked him went east. I keep going north to reach this bridge containing a level inside. I need that extra jump height or I wouldn't be able to even get onto the bridge in the first place. The screen starts with me needing to avoid landing in fire. Then comes navigating falling platforms and avoiding pillars of fire rising up. After a bit of that I jump across some spikes and reach the other side of the bridge. To the east is a pot containing a talisman of the cyclone. I follow the road east and then south, turning north when I can to find the Gremlin Tower. I first just head forward while dealing with more zombies. Not far in is this tree that explodes into a freeway spread shot when killed. Then bugs crawling on the walls, and I get climbing to have a giant spiked floating eyeball come after me. These explode on their own after chasing you for a few seconds. With a left or right choice, I go left and get climbing, having to deal with trees, bugs and spikes on the walls. There is a tricky bit when I have to blow up a tree right in front of my face and have to avoid the projectiles immediately after, but I make it to the top. I cross a spike pit and now I have this moving pillar floating over more spikes. Here I have to use Firebrand's wall cling to ride the pillar. I grab a vial and an extra life on the way down, landing at the end of the right path from earlier. I climb all the way back up to the pillar again and this time jump and cling to the second pillar above it. I wait for it to get out from under the spiked ceiling and climb the wall above it. All the way to the top and there's another spike floor to hover over as I end up back inside. Downhill and I have another pillar to ride while dealing with this big plant that spits out the spiked eyeballs. From the platform the plant was on, I climb higher. I have another plant and a series of pillars to ride across to avoid the spiked floor and ceiling. It is quite nerve-wracking. There isn't much room for error when it comes to jump height, so I was always worried about pressing the button even slightly for too long. This all goes on for a while until I reach the top and see this giant slime with an eyeball stuck to the wall below me. These are actually the boss of this place. 4 Eyes is not supposed to be an insulting name for the boss is literally just 4 eyes. I have to hover over the spikes to get close enough to hit them while also avoiding the large projectiles they're firing at the same time. I take out that first one and find another to the left. At first I think this one will be easier as I don't have to hover over spikes, but this one can shoot diagonally. It's still easier though since I can get my own shots in faster. I do a bit of climbing and have to fight the last 2 with a moving pillar and a single tile wide bit of floor as my only safe ground. However, this space is a lot less cramped, so avoiding enemy fire is easy and I take them both out. A wall opens up so I can leave and I have found Jack's Gremlin Stick. Getting it gains me the power of the Blockbuster, allowing me to destroy certain walls. I keep moving north to find another roped figure blocking my path. It's the same zombie fight I've had before. Further north is a gate, but I can't go in yet. I have to return to Jack. South from there takes me back to the bridge and I have to go through it backwards. I return to the town and remember to take the 2 vials in the southeast corner and the vial in Jack's house. I use the Gremlin Stick on Jack and he regains his power of future sight. His first vision is to see the previously thought dead King Dark Owen actually dying in an inferno. Guy's not having much luck today. I suppose that's one way to discover someone isn't dead though. Jack tells me to take the Candle of the Poltergeist to Dark Owen. I buy some more extra lives and have to get going across the bridge again. Talking to the demon and informing him that I'm going to save the king will have him tell me that his palace is through the gate, but that's very dangerous. Once I tell him that I'm prepared for the danger, he's impressed by my courage and gives me the Armour of the Dragon, which grants me a 3rd point of health. Doesn't sound a lot, but to me, there's no health increase in a game that feels bigger than going from 2 to 3. It means I can now make more than just one mistake before dying. And into the gate. I climb a wall, float over some water and hit a dead end. I drop into the water and descend to near the bottom, then mash jump to swim up to the other side and find the exit. And I'm out of the other side and can continue east. There's another extra life lying out in the open and further east is a second town. The first person I talk to says that King Dark Owen's palace is to the north. Even people this close to the palace still believe that he's dead. I learned that all the pots I'm finding vials and lives in were dropped around the realm by Dark Owen, along with the essence of the soul stream which I still haven't found yet. I'm warned that some ghouls have defected to the invaders. The buildings in town are just the usual password house and extra life salesman. Moving north from town, I get my first enemy visible on the map that isn't the same zombie fight. It is the same Fishman random encounter I've had before though. At the east or north fork, I go east to find a 3rd town. The building right in front of the entrance is a prison, with those inside saying they were captured and thrown in here. You do realise the front door is open, right? You can just walk out. Another says that the path to the palace is blocked and that I need the Wings of the Falcon to get there. The demons outside are defectors who threaten to kill Firebrand for crimes like loafing. Into another house, one tells me he saw a set of wings at the huge tree behind the palace. I leave this town and go back near the previous one. Behind where I thought those fishmen is the giant tree. Inspecting it gets me the wings of the falcon, levelling my wings to level 2 and allowing me to hover for a longer time before falling. Back to the town with the prison, I move north and get my first random encounter with the eyeball-spitting plants. At the east or west fork, I first go west to find the essence of the soul stream. Once per life, or once per level, I can use this to fully recover my health. It will become usable again after either dying or finishing the area I'm in. The eastern path has the enemy blocking the path to the bridge to the palace. It's this sort of big dog thing with a face on its chest that throws its own head. There's actually 2 of them, and I swap to the blockbuster because it's a stronger weapon. It has firebrand spit triangles instead of fire. I take out one, only for a third to appear. I don't know if it was a glitch or if there actually was a third one that I missed, but I managed to kill all 3 in the end. Now I can get to the bridge, which is broken. This is why I needed the wings of the falcon, as the gap in the bridge was too long to fly over with my default wing level. But it's safest to cling onto the wall you start at and jump from there for the extra distance. Past that, I have a lot of falling platforms over the fire and pits to cross while avoiding more spikes. Thankfully there's a heart near the end for me to recover some health with. I exit out to the other side and then travel southeast to find King Dark Owen's castle. The first one I speak to accuses Firebrand of switching sides, the second says that Dark Owen has been locked up. The third says that the enemy armies must belong to the King of Destruction and consist of those from the last war revived. The fourth person tells me that Dark Owen has lost his power and that the Ghoul realm is finished. I go further into the back to start the next level. I first start by avoiding the breakable floor and climbing the wall. Up here is a larger vial worth 4 vials. Also around here is a big hopping frog demon. Past that I finally find breakable blocks, along with finding that I can't wall cling to them. These are hiding another large vial. Climbing up and continuing to the right, I drop down at the end and break open this wall to travel deeper. Once I get through, there's a large vial over a bit of ground that will drop this giant ball on my head. I make sure not to set it off and break the next wall down to reach the one I have to climb, also with a switch to avoid. But this time the ball is at the top and blocking my path forward, so I have to press a switch and then get out of the way before I climb up and get this health. That's where the path ends and I have to go back. Before the first small breakable wall, the wall above it has another switch to drop a ball. With it out of the way, I can now climb to the roof. My movement is slowed due to strong winds. This leads to me hovering against the wind and landing on very small platforms to avoid getting spiked. And during that, a flying skeleton demon has a go at me too. But I just have to land by this wall and it flies right into my attacks. I see the breakable wall and the ball past it and instead climb over them for some health and this large vial. I break through another wall and then comes more spikes to float over. The next wall I have to break is a pain since I can't do it in installments. The only safe ground is far back enough that the broken blocks respawn. But I eventually get through and even the wind stops. Only a little further is the boss, Belzamos. I have very little safe ground with almost the entire floor being spikes. Belzamos can break itself into 4 beads and then come back together somewhere else. It also has its own big projectile that it throws. I can not only damage its main body, but also cause damage by killing the bees it splits into. It's not a hard boss and only hits me once before I fill its face with enough blockbusters to make it explode. The spikes disappear and I can now enter the palace proper. Before helping out Dark Owen, I help myself to his 3 vials and Talisman of the Cyclone. Now if he dies he really is fucked. I try talking to him but he's still very weak. So I use the Candle of the Poltergeist, returning to Dark Owen the ability to move. He says the King of Destruction drained his power and we finally learn his name, Braga. While Dark Owen can move again, he still can't recover his full strength until Braga is killed. But only the Red Blaze can do that, so Firebrand must somehow track it down. Agreeing to go look for it has Dark Owen grant Firebrand the remaining power that he won't be getting much use out of. He powers up Firebrand's nails and wings. Talking to Dark Owen again has him say that someone called Major Rita may know how to find the Red Blaze. He says that Byman, who lives somewhere to the east, will know where Major Rita is. Leaving the palace, there's another town to the north. The first person I speak to tells me that Byman has the Candle of Darkness. Another says I need that candle if I want to see Major Rita. Moving southeast, there is another town. And as soon as I learn that I need the Candle of Darkness, it's been stolen. The next person tells me that with some kind of claw, I can climb even more surfaces. Another gives me the name of Major Rita's location, the Cave of Darkness. One guy recognises Firebrand and wants to test his strength. Maybe flying at someone mouth open and nothing else isn't the best strategy. I take him down without taking damage. Recognising Firebrand's worth, he hands over the Armour of Guile. This gives me a maximum health of 4. He disappears and lets me enter Byman's house. First I take his 3 vials. Byman says the Candle of Darkness has been taken to the Desert of Destitution to the east. I agree to get it back, but Byman will then neg Firebrand, saying that his powers are wasted on him and he should hand them over to Byman. Refusing will have him praise Firebrand's bravery and offer to tell him where Major Rita is if he comes back with the candle. I leave town and travel east into the desert. Either some magic force or the strong movement of the sand drags Firebrand around out of my control. The guys throwing heads have also become random encounters too. I just keep moving around hoping to get pushed into the crater in the desert. I get a new enemy in this guy riding a cart that has a face and wearing a shield that also has a face. I drop down, shoot a few blockbusters and jump back until they're both dead. Eventually, after just brute forcing the desert, I get pushed into the crater. First I have this very big hole to drop down with spikes everywhere that constantly changes direction, making me have to manage my wing meter so I don't run out and can't stop myself from falling on any spikes that may be below me. There's a load of vials on the way down, but they aren't worth the risk. There's also the odd bare wall I can cling to refill my meter. Eventually I make it to the bottom and land in some water. Quite a bit of swimming to the right, taking out the skeleton plant, and then comes another spiky hole to navigate down. At the bottom I try fighting the skeleton plant only for a flying piranha plant to force its way on screen and kill me. I'm ready for it next time, but they can turn around and follow me. As I hover down to a long breakable wall, I finally have to deal with that piranha plant before I can safely start on it. I get through and have another spiked maze drop to get through. Past that, the next new enemies are what I think are mud or sand guys jumping in and out of the ground. Then a little further is this place's boss, Zaku Druza. He moves and jumps around the screen, firing a large projectile. And I do mean a large projectile, he only gets to spit the one, as otherwise he spends most of his time just trying to get close to me while I keep pelting him with the blockbuster until he dies. The exit opens and I have regained the Candle of Darkness. I also gain the Power of Claw, which allows me to climb spiky walls. I return to the town and Byman tells me that to reach the cave where Major Rita is, I have to use a secret passage in this room. I walk through the northeast corner to find a little maze. There's 4 vials and 2 extra lives to pick up, with the exit being in the northwest. This puts me back out on the map to the south of the town. In my first battle I equip the Power of Claw, which now has me spitting balls of lava. These will cool when touching spikes, which is how I'll be able to climb them. Moving southwest, there's a monster blocking the path saying that Braga has ordered him to stop me reaching Major Rita. It's the head-throwing enemies. The claw wipes them out in no time. Continuing south, I find another crater to enter. It leads to a cave which is pretty unremarkable. A lot of moving left to drop down to move right to drop left and repeat. Then at the bottom is a long spike floor, and I didn't even need to use the claw to reach the spike-surrounded exit. It puts me in the cave where I can finally meet Major Rita. She says that if I want to know more about the Red Blaze, I must light a candle at the altar, and she moves aside to let me reach it. First, I steal her savings of 3 vials. I stand at the altar and light the Candle of Darkness, which darkens the room. Major Rita tells me that in the last war, the Red Blaze sealed King Braga deep below the ground. The Red Blaze was not the flames itself, but an actual living being named for his red colour. He was a red armor like Firebrand, but there is only one left with his blood. But as I go to leave, monsters who can't allow me to live with that knowledge appear. I take out the pair of cart monsters that attacked me and speak to Major Rita again. Having seen Firebrand's power in action, she knows that Firebrand is the Red Blaze's last living descendant. But he still isn't powerful enough to defeat Braga, so he has to keep on moving east to find a Rushifel and get the Eternal Candle from him. I take the exit here and end up outside near a bridge. So I take the bridge on, climb up to the top, then a long flight over a pool of fire, followed by falling platforms below a spiked ceiling, then followed by a lot of wall clinging and navigating small platforms above mostly fire. And past that, one pit before I reach the end and get back out onto the overworld on the other side. I then move south to reach the next town. The first person I talk to accuses Firebrand of being a faker, claiming that Rushifel has the candle and is the true Red Blaze. But the second person believes in Firebrand at least. After so much of the game charging me 8 vials for an extra life, now I'm being charged 32. There's a road slightly out of the town walls that leads to the gargoyle who gave me the Armour of Guile. He tells me that the Naga's Path is the 5th on the northernmost side. I have no idea what that means. I go east from town and find another gate. I don't want that one and continue northeast to find the gate I do want to enter. This is the Naga's Path. It's the 5th gate to the north of that town when moving east. I have another big drop down a spiky hole to navigate, with health and vials on the way down. A bit annoying thanks to those flying piranha plants. At the bottom I then have to use the claw to climb an entirely spiked wall. A long climb to the top to find the exit, dropping me off outside this castle. Inside is Rushifel. So Rushifel is actually a mistranslation, the real name being Lucifer, as in the final boss of the second mainline game, Ghouls and Ghosts. I've never touched that one, so I had no idea while I was playing. He's been expecting Firebrand and says that if he's in fact the true Red Blaze, Firebrand should be able to defeat him in a fight for the Eternal Candle. But not right now. There's a level to get through first, so he shuffles backwards off screen to let me into said level. One very long glide over a spiked floor into a hole, and I still land on the very last spike. Then another spike pit to find this vertical shaft that has not just spikes, but also a drill on a chain moving in and out of the wall. I end up juggled between them and killed. I just take some damage next time and let myself plummet to the bottom before the post-damage invincibility wears off. Then comes climbing this spiked shaft using the claw while having as little space to move as possible. I'm very thankful for that heart at the top as I travel into the corridor with a falling ceiling. Then comes dropping past moving spiked orbs, and then at the bottom some more claw climbing over spikes. Out of the top to see one of the enemies has become very confused, allowing me to easily kill him. He was guarding a heart, so go back in and drop down a little to hover through this thin spiked corridor. There's a ball I can set off, but I just ignore it and keep dropping down. I land on the switch to set off another ball and have to run up this slope with ceiling spikes dropping just barely above my head. Another drop down and I climb over the breakable walls for another heart, then go through them. Through those walls is Lucifer. He sits on his throne throwing giant fireballs from each hand in whichever direction he points, followed by a big homing one. I just have to hover around these small blocks, getting in the shots when I can. This amounted to me moving anti-clockwise around the arena, spitting in his face as much as I can whenever I'm level with his head. It's usually not the projectiles that damage me, it's mostly bumping my head on the bottom of his throne. But I mess up the timing on my dropping to head level and get killed. Next time I get him, but it takes a lot of punishment to finally bring him down. I'm sent to a new room and Lucifer concedes that Firebrand is the Red Blaze. But Firebrand still is not at full power, and so Lucifer hands over the Eternal Candle to fix that. Firebrand can feel the essence of the Ghoul realm building up inside him and hears a voice in his head. The voice calls him their son and tells him to show his true power by destroying Braga. I gain the most powerful weapon, the Dark Fire, along with a maximum health of 5 and infinite hover time. I leave the castle and behind it is one more bridge. Good thing that infinite hovering, as I have to hover over a massive pit, only stopping to cling to walls with fire on top. Just get past all of those and reach the end. Staying on the lower end of the screen makes it easier, as fighting the winged skeletons while hovering puts you at a disadvantage. Past the bridge and north a little more is the game's final palace. The only downside to the Dark Fire is that it doesn't have the properties of the previous weapon, so I still have to swap back to the claw to climb this spiked wall. Then an incredibly thin path through a fiery floor and spiked ceiling. I wish I could give a more detailed explanation for the final level, but it is mostly alternating wall jumping and hovering over spikes and fires while slowly ascending. It's a maze, and describing one of those while keeping it interesting is not a skill I have. At some points I even have to go back to the Blockbuster to get through a wall. It's just a shame the last full level doesn't give me the chance to use that new good weapon I just gained. Eventually my ascension takes me out of the maze and into the sky. I climb up this building and run through the door at the end. I head north through this corridor and there is Braga, but first I steal his 4 extra lives. Braga is well aware of Firebrand by now and offers him the chance to join him, where he'll let Firebrand own the Ghoul realm and all that usual bollocks. I say no and we fight. Braga is a bit like Lucifer in that he floats still in the centre of the arena while I have a few blocks surrounding him to get around on. He creates his own homing projectiles, but the Dark Fire can destroy them, but not the non-homing projectiles. When his bottom arm is lowered, I have to shoot in the tiny gap between arms to deal damage. I'm basically beating up his armpits. It's very tricky getting the timing right. Just have to jump and hope you pressed fire at the right time. It takes so long that he manages to kill me. Thankfully I'm checkpointed right in front of him. So I just get doing it again, and this time I remember I own the essence of Soulstream and use it for the first time to heal myself. A long time and many shots to the armpit later, Braga can't cope with the pain and his head blows up. Braga complains about losing twice and threatens coming back again, but then he blows up again. I end up in this room where everyone congratulates me and King Dark Owen asks why Firebrand never told him he was the Red Blaze. He asks Firebrand to stay around and help clean up the mess left by Braga's army. He also gives Earth to Firebrand, providing Firebrand can conquer it of course. I then get an ending text scroll. Braga's death restored Dark Owen's powers, which then allowed him to get out of his chair and wipe out the remaining enemy army at once. The Ghoul realm was saved and Firebrand became a living legend. I know they're different genres, but I liked Gargoyle's Quest so much more than Ghosts and Goblins. It's actually a very straightforward game, but they managed to make it feel like a big world for the time and platform without it feeling like there's huge stretches of nothing. The travel between all the important locations is just the right length, and even with the game only really having 4 kinds of obstacle — spikes, fire, falling platforms and the odd giant boulder — they managed to keep it from feeling repetitive. It's definitely one of the better Game Boy games I've played for this channel. I do have both sequels downloaded on the Wii U, and I've been interested in trying them out, but was waiting for a way to do this game first. Of those 11 games I played with the Switch Online free trial, Super Mario Land 2 is still my favourite, but this one absolutely comes second.